Okay, let's talk about it. The one thing that no one's talking about is the fact that there are quite a few people that blow it up when they go through coaching programs, whether it be group coaching, one-on-one, etc. I'm actually talking to you if you're interested in going to B2B sales and you've done the group coaching program, you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, you have a team, whatever it is, but you've done group coaching, you've done one-on-one coaching, you've done coaching with people that have been in sales, with people that have not been in sales. And for some reason, you cannot seem to just get it to a consistent level, right? There's just something about your consistency that's not there. Maybe it's that you can't get it to any level. Maybe you have not sold not one corporate deal. So here's the thing. I think that's one thing people aren't talking about is that everyone doesn't go through coaching and get the same results, right? So we hear a lot about all the results people get, but we don't hear about the people that don't, like the masses of people that don't get results. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it today, specific to B2B sales. Some of it you can take away for B2C sales because the two are getting closer and closer and closer together, probably on a minute by minute basis. But my expertise, my focus has always been B2B. I've sold for corporate, sold over $25 million, selling to Fortune 1000s like Wells Fargo Bank, Discover Financial, FedEx Office, Kaiser Permanente companies, the big giants, right? And it's a process. So first and foremost, I'm going to talk about, three things. The first thing I'm going to mention is that there's a lot of conversation about people knocking it out of the park in a couple of weeks, a month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. That is clearly doable. Okay. I'm not here to tell you that it's not doable. And I'm not here to tell you that it hasn't been done. I've closed deals after meeting people and, getting engaged with them and, within 30 to 45 days, right? That's the hair on fire. That is when I talk about my heart-centered framework, there is a timing, timeline, and trigger component there. That's the T in heart-centered. And that timing, that trigger component, the trigger component typically is hair on fire, compliance issues. Maybe you're selling the financial services and there's some mandate that's coming. Maybe you're in healthcare and there's a mandate that's coming. That's the trigger, right? That's compliance. I love compliance. I don't always think that it's ideal because sometimes we put things in place that aren't really necessary from the layperson's perspective. But that's the trigger part. And when there's a trigger, the person the buyer, the corporate buyer that you're talking to has a reason to complete things in a certain time frame. And it isn't always just that making the change will help them. It's like, no, making the change will help us, but it also keeps us compliant so that we can continue working in the space we're working in without having my mom comes from healthcare, like demerits, right? Like, so healthcare is all about the demerit points. Okay. The other piece of it could easily be that it's just the right time. I just came off a call and the gentleman said, your timing is perfect, right? Your timing's perfect. We've all been there where someone called us, we needed something, right? Whether you're a corporate buyer or you're just an individual, but someone contacted you and you were like, this is perfect timing, right? So corporate buyers go through that as well. Then there's this piece where it's timeline and sellers get this a lot, right? So we aren't looking at that until Q3. As we get into Q3, you'll hear we aren't looking at that until the first of the year. After the first of the year, you'll hear we will be looking at it later this year. You can contact us in June or July because we'll start our evaluation in, let's just say, September. Okay. So you see the difference between the three: trigger, timing, timelines. So what people don't talk to you about is all these calls, all these emails, all these touches, all these sales conversations you're having. Each of those buyers has one of those three. It's either the right timing, the timeline is set already, or there's a trigger, you could say / compliance component. And I just candidly think that part of the issue with sales is we push by all of them. We just push all the way through and we decide it's my timing, it's my timeline, it's my trigger. And the trigger is I need to keep my job. The timeline is I didn't hit quota last quarter. And the timing of it is my management team is going to want to hear what I have in my pipeline, right? So there's a lot of that. And when we're in solopreneur, entrepreneur mode, what happens is, those things get very blurred, right? And we're not really looking to see, maybe there's a certain niche that you're calling on and they actually do have a trigger component, right? Trigger meaning they have a mandate coming that has to be fulfilled. And you would be phenomenal to actually bring what you offer to that space. It could be that it's timing, right? So if you're selling into education, there's a good chance that summer's not the best time to sell into education. And I'm not saying as a whole, I'm just saying that a lot of the educators are on summer break. Some of them are there for summer school. Some of the decision makers are not there at all. So even if you catch someone there, they could potentially be in a position where they can't make a decision. So I'm just saying that would be a timing perspective, which you could carry over to timeline. So timeline has to do with you're in here and you're selling and you're talking to people and you're uncovering, but at the end of the day, their timeline is such that they're not probably going to make a decision until they get to a certain space or place with the committee that is mine. Okay, so that's all a large part of it. And like I said, you could enter into any of those scenarios at the perfect time, and it is just a perfect storm, and you ride off into the sunset with your new client. Okay, so by no means am I saying that it's a long spot, but if you're one of those people that are just haven't closed the deal, they just haven't gotten there, it could be that you're lacking consideration for one of those three. So that is a T in my heart-centered framework: timing, timelines, and triggers. I will leave that with you. There should be a sense always when you're talking to your buyer. The HEAR means something totally different, but when you get to this space, there should be a sense of what their timing looks like, right? Or if they have a trigger / mandate, or if they have a timeline in mind, because our goal is to exceed expectation. And if you don't understand what the expectation is, it's going to be kind of hard to exceed it. You're literally setting your own expectation, which might not be theirs, and then wondering why they're not excited about working with you. So that's one of the things I wanted to cover. At the end of the day, what I do in advisory, so our advisory services take entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, founders that have been coached and have been working on their own, looking to land deals. So you learned how, right? You got everything up into the air. Now you've got this very loud, noisy space where everybody's kind of flying in the same airspace. And you're at a point where we actually need to start a descent. Okay. So maybe you have a prospective client you're working with, and we need to start the descent so that you understand how to work with them to get to the gate on time safely, right? So you've got your crew that's going to guide you in. You've got a time you're supposed to be there, because you can't just pull into it. If we're using a flying analogy, airplanes can't just pull into a gate any old time and say, okay, well, we're here. We decided to go to gate 17 instead of gate 27. Okay. Doesn't work that way. So at the end of the day, it's a matter of understanding how, when, and where to begin the descent, and understand that your buyer has their own space where they will begin their descent to make their decision. The goal is to align both so that you are the selected one that brings them into the gate safely and begins to implement whatever offering you're providing. but so often we overlook that. I'm going to drop a link in the comments. You can subscribe, please, hit the bell, leave a comment, ask a question, disagree. It's okay. Like, be respectful, but disagree with me if that's a thing. And you think, hey, I don't think it's any of that. I think you need to, there's another frame of thought. You need to go ahead and build up what the buyer should do, right? You could go that route. And if you want to have that conversation with me in the comments, I would love it. So again, subscribe, hit the bell, give some thought to the question and see how it is you are approaching this particular area. All right. My name is Cheryl Parks. I'm also known as a sales growth coach / sales growth advisor. And I'm looking forward to learning more about you and ways that I can potentially help. Take care.